Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our lessons on 3D shapes. So last week we looked at a recap on 2D shapes, so today we're going to be looking at nets. That's what we're going to focus on. So before we begin that, I'd like you to have a go at a little puzzle. So here are 6 squares and you need to try and tell me how many ways you can rearrange these 6 squares and see what you get. Ideally, what has to happen is that they cannot be attached at a corner and they have to have at least one full side touching. So for example, all of these have at least one full side touching another shape. So this one works. I cannot change the orientation and say that's a different shape. That would be exactly the same. The orientation cannot change. It has to be a completely different arrangement. So I can't turn this one horizontally and say it's a different shape. This is where you pause the video, give yourself about 10 or 15 minutes to have a go. Try and see if you can find how many different ways you can arrange 6 squares. Okay, if you've given yourself those 10 minutes, you should have found this many ways of arranging 6 squares. There are a lot of them. If you have a really close look, we've gone very systematically through them. There's a very systematic approach through all of them. Also, all of the edges are touching, so there are exact sides touching each other. Also, there's no repeats. These are all of the ways you can arrange 6 squares. That was a little puzzle to help you out. It will make sense why we did this in a second. So let's have a look at some keywords. So one of the keywords that you're going to come across is net. What does net mean? What is a net? And it's not something you catch fish with, fortunately, in maths. A net is a pattern that you can cut out and fold up to make a 3D shape. So if you think about any packaging, they are formed from nets. So if any of you have ever been to a pizza place where you've ordered a pizza, their packaging is flat and then they box it up to try and make a box. Think about flat pack furniture, it's the same thing. It comes in flat bits that you kind of arrange to make a 3D shape. That's what a net is in essence. Now what I'd like you to do is look at the arrangements that you had previously, so the arrangements that we just looked at of those 6 squares, and which ones of those do you think will make a net of a cube? And a way of doing this, if you're finding it difficult to visualize it, is maybe draw them out on some paper, cut them out and see if they fold up to make a cube. Try and see which ones make a cube. Give yourself again another 10 minutes to have a go at this, cut them out, fold them up. Which one of the arrangements that you just did create a cube? Okay, so if you've done that, you should have had these ones. These are all of the arrangements that make a cube. Some of them are very particular. So for example, this one you may have come very close to. A lot of the time if you go online and try and download a dice, this is the one you're going to see. This one also is very common. They come up, that's why they're in pink, whatever. And all of these will fold up to try and make a cube. Obviously, you can adapt some of these to try and make cuboids. So for example, this one, if you change these 4 in the middle into rectangles, you'll just make a net for a cuboid. Very useful to know these kind of tips and tricks. So before we move on and we do anything else, we need to teach you some keywords that we need to look at. So the keywords you need to know, first one is face. What is a face? Well, here is a cuboid, here is its face. And a face is a 2D shape that makes up the flat sides of a 3D shape. That's what we call a face. The other thing you need to know is what an edge is. An edge is where 2 faces meet. That's what an edge is. So for example, on this cuboid, that bit there would be an edge. Another keyword you need to know is I get through all the edges. It is a vertex. Now, what is a vertex? Well, a vertex is where 2 or more edges meet. So, for example, on our diagram here, each one of these vertexes on the top is where 3 edges meet. So that edge, and that edge meet at this vertex. That's what a vertex is. It's basically a corner. Vertex is a mathematical word that you like to use. It's a point where 2 or more edges meet. That's what a vertex is. Now, another keyword is a polyhedron. Similar to a polygon, a polyhedron is a 3D shape. And it has to have straight edges and all of its faces must be polygons. If the faces are not polygons, it is not considered a polyhedron. That is a key thing that you need to make sure you understand. So we've had those keywords now. We've had face, edge, vertex, and polyhedron. Polyhedron is made up of two sections, so poly meaning more than, and hedron is like the word for 3D. So for example, a lot of 3D shapes end in the word drawn. That's one of the things. It's like, for example, a lot of 2D shapes are polygons and they end in the suffix gon. That's usually how you can see what they are. Okay, so here are some polyhedrons that you can look at, and you can try, if you would like, to figure out what the nets of these shapes would be. It might be useful just to Google some 3D shape names, like for example, tetrahedron, icosahedron. You can find the nets online, print them out, fold them up, and try and make those 3D shapes. That might be a really good activity to do. You might want to take some packaging that already exists and unfold it and have a look at what the net looks like. That would be really useful. So let's have a look at a net to try and see if we can find a net from a 3D shape. So here's our 3D shape. This is a triangle-based pyramid. And it's made up of 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles. That's what it's made up. It's made up of 4 triangles. Now, what would that look like if you were to unfold it? So the base would be a triangle. So the middle bit would be a triangle. And then you'd have 1, 2, 3 triangles coming off the edges. It would look something along the lines of this. So this middle triangle would be the base. And these would fold along the dotted lines to make your triangle-based prism. We've got a different shape here. We've got a cylinder. And we need to try and visualize what this looks like. We need to try and think, what would happen if I started to unfold this? What shapes are involved? Well, I've got 1, 2 circles in, and then something that wraps around it. What would that shape look like? If I was to make a cut here and unfold it, what would it look like? Just have about 30 seconds to think about what that would be. Now, if you said rectangle, you are exactly correct. So this is what it would look like. It would be 2 circles, rectangle. The thing with finding nets from 3D shapes is you just need to try and visualize what these shapes look like. And the best way to get good at visualizing them is to either find some nets online and then cut them out and try and build them up, or find some already made 3D shapes, like some packaging that you found. So for example, Toblerone boxes or a Pringles can or anything like that, that you can then cut open and have a look at what it would look like if you were to unpack it. This is where I leave you for this episode. We will come back hopefully tomorrow with some more videos. There will be more videos on this series. We'll just progress through it like a lesson would be. Hopefully this has helped you. The best thing now is to go away and look at some resources to try and answer some questions. Resources I recommend are always Dr. Frost Maths and Corbett Maths. They have a fantastic assortment of questions that you can answer. They don't sponsor this video. I have no links with them, but I just feel like they are really good resources to practice. Hopefully you're doing well in this isolation time and you're keeping yourselves busy. Go forth, do some maths, go be productive, and have a wonderful day.